This panel is obviously about value for value. This is a new monetization model which is hyped by a lot of Bitcoiners. All sitting here are somehow involved with this model. We have some content creators here. We have people creating tools to facilitate those payments or make it gamify it. But I'm interested, who here knows what value for value means? Okay, so who has contributed to a value for value content creator before? Okay, so for the people who don't know what value for value means, it's basically the busking method. You put the content out without any payment wall, without any advertisement, and like the musician on the street, he's just playing, and then he relies on the people to give them money back, right? And so, as I said, we have a lot of people here. I would start with you, Oscar. Can you please introduce yourself, why you are sitting on here, and what you're doing for value for value? Yes.
Thanks, Max. Hi, everyone. My name's Oscar Merry, and I'm the co-founder of Fountain, which is a podcast app that lets you support your favorite podcasters and also now musicians. And yeah, we make it easy using the Bitcoin Lightning Network to stream money for every minute that you listen. So yeah, looking forward to this discussion.
Yeah, I go by the name actionslave. I am one of the 6 hosts of No Signal, which is a German Bitcoin podcast, run only on value for value. Yeah, that's about it.
Hey guys, I'm Metamick, CEO and co-founder of Geyser.fund, and we're a crowdfunding platform or a creator platform that runs on top of Bitcoin and Lightning.
And I'm Burra. I'm an author and podcaster. I've been experimenting with value for value on Nostr for the past several months.
Exactly. My name is Max. I'm a Bitcoin filmmaker, and I want to start with addressing the creators on here because I am monetizing myself 100% on value for value. I don't have any sponsors yet. I'm trying to make this model work. And I gotta be honest, it doesn't work. Not at all, right? So I put a lot of time and effort into my videos. I do this full time. I'm glad to have some other income sources which I'm able to live off. But the value for value model doesn't work for me at all. So I made some bigger movies like the Nostr documentary where it worked, but this was a one-off where I made like profit. But if I see the time I put into some of my videos and what I get back, which is between 20 to 50,000 sats, something like this per video, this is when I want to talk a little bit later about how we can increase it, and I'm trying to I'm experimenting right now, but to be honest, for me, this model is not a reality yet. I'm trying to figure out how we can make this a reality, but I want to know from the creators on here how you see the model right now, how it is. Maybe we start with you, actionslave.
Yeah, sure. And I agree with you. It doesn't work. We cannot live off all the sats that are being streamed to artists, but I think it's more important to think about it as a proof of concept. So it works. Our listeners stream real sound money to us without an intermediary. Once the sats are with us, they cannot take it back. And it's only a start, right? So we're still early, as we all know. And I think it's important to show that it can work. At least it covers our production costs. We have some hosting software and post-production software that we use, and all our costs are covered. And the rest of it is going through a bounty program. So we're not taking any of the money. Yeah, that's basically my first point here.
Yeah, look, I was waiting to see which of us would be the first one to say we are so early, and I think you beat me to it. And I think that's what it is. It clearly is not a model that can work at scale, right? And Max, you posted about this. Apart from your Nostr documentary, it really is hard to make have a sustainable revenue stream purely on value for value. But that said, I mean, you're seeing some interesting models emerge, right? So, for example, Wavelake, it's a music distribution or music platform where content creators, musicians can post their music and they get zapped. And we had Ainsley Costello, a 19-year-old young lady from Nashville, country pop music. She was the first one to reach 1 million sats in Zaps. You had Just Loud, who's a more established musician, who's had millions of downloads on Spotify, made $0. And then as soon as he joined Wavelake, started making a lot of sats in Zaps. So you are seeing some early glimmers of possibilities. You have some creators who are making some money on Fountain through boosts and other things with their podcasts. So I think we are early, but we're seeing some signs here. I think what would be interesting is right now there isn't any sort of market dynamic or a forcing function, right? As you have, let's say, with subscriptions and other existing fiat type payments for other content, you don't quite have that in value for value. But I think if we lower our time preference and then look at some of these early examples, I think there is a long road ahead for growth.
That's maybe the interesting thing about it. Like as you said, actionslave, the proof of concept is there. So I'm monetizing on YouTube, and comparable to the views I get on YouTube and what I get on Nostr, it's 10 to 20x what I use with the traditional media, right? So when I get a YouTube video for me gets like $2, but on Nostr I get $20 to $40. So the proof of concept is there, but I think we need to build maybe the tools around this to make it more scalable, and that's where you both come in, because you want to enable us content creators to be able to maybe scale, get a better discoverability, and funnel those viewers or the audience which we have into making the value for value experience a little bit easier. So how do you approach this? What are your views on value for value on the other side of the equation?
Yeah, I think just one thing I'd like to mention quickly before I talk about the tools that we're building is that there's actually 3 components to value for value. The first is the monetary component, but often people think that it's just that value for value is just about how much money you can earn from your audience. But there's actually 2 other really important parts to this. And the way that we like to frame this is with the concept of time, talent, and treasure. So as an audience member or somebody that gets value from the content that you listen to or watch, you can contribute value back, not just through your money, through your sats, but also through, sharing that content, providing feedback, adding to the content. So time, talent, and treasure is really important. And when we're building tools, we need to enable that, not just the monetary flow. To answer your question specifically though, I think that the state of the tools that enable value for value, is only just starting to emerge to where mainstream audience can actually use it and use it in an enjoyable way. Like if you take the Fountain app, maybe some of you have used it before, but only in December did we have our 1.0 release. And now we're comfortable saying that, okay, this is a podcast app where if you're coming from Spotify, if you're coming from Apple Podcasts, the UX is there, the design is there, and also the features that highlight value for value, encourage listeners to contribute, give users feedback, positive feedback when they do contribute. We're only just starting to kind of surface these features, and feedback is a really, really important part. When you send those sats, if you don't kind of receive some kind of response from the content creator, then you're probably going to drop off and never do it again. And I think if you look at Nostr, just zapping the posts, I don't think that's enough to really drive significant amounts of revenue. Talking about the Ainsley Costello example that you mentioned, Avi, that was an example where the feedback tools did exist. So you had, a ranked list of all of the boosts. And what that did was encourage all of the live audience to support more and more to try and get to the top. I think those kinds of features are only just starting to be introduced, and we need a lot more of them that kind of encourage people and give them that positive feedback that they're making a difference.
Yeah, great points there. And to kind of also take another step back here quickly, it's good to remember where we are today. Just to think that when you scroll on Twitter, when you go on YouTube, if you're on Facebook or on Instagram, money is not plugged into these systems, right? And the only current means for monetization at the platform level is advertising. And the big bulk of the value gets extracted by the platform, where, say, YouTube, I think it's 30 or 50%. They take a very, very big cut. The creator gets the scraps. And just think about a massive creator like Mr. Beast. He has, is it 100 million? 100 million.
I think even more. I think he makes
I think it's around 200 or 300 million. Like, he goes to reach 1 billion users. And he's still making in the millions of dollars. But imagine if all the listeners that love his content could just send him some money. How simple is that? And you cannot do that. You cannot send direct value on the internet today. And that's mind-boggling if you think about it. And that's what value for value is in the end. It's a peer-to-peer exchange from contributor, from supporter to the creator. And the fact that you cannot do that really shows you how early we are. And so to me, it's actually amazing that in your example, you said that you make 10x more money on Nostr than on YouTube, even though probably you get 100x more viewership on YouTube than Nostr.
Yep.
So just imagine so when you said value for value doesn't work, I would say it doesn't work yet. It doesn't work yet because there's so few people that use these value for value tools. This is where we need you guys to, get on Nostr, get on Fountain, get on Geyser, use these tools, support your creators, and you'll just experience a level of feedback loop that you just never experienced with other platforms, because there is no feedback loop, as Oscar said. So we're super early. Get on it. You can support and have a special relationship with your creator, and have a relationship with them, greater feedback loop, and feel part of the revolution, because you are fueling this incredible tool of Bitcoin, of freedom. You're empowering creators in a way that they could never be empowered before. And yeah, there's many tools to do that, like Geyser Fountain, Wave Lake. So yeah, get on it.
I would. Good one. I would like to pick up on 2 points that were mentioned. So one is how to encourage our listeners, or how to interact with our listeners. And what we do in our podcast is about once a month, we sit together, we go through all the boosts and all the messages and talk about them. So it's not just one way, so the users gives us a boost or asks us a question, but we also say thanks you for the small boost, even if it's only 1,000 sats, but we do it. So we try to interact with our users. But it also gives us a chance to look back. So what has happened in our podcast in the last month? What questions came up? How can we answer them? I think that's very important. Not only expect your users or listeners to send you some sats, but also thank them for sending those sats, and thank them for the questions they ask and try to answer them. That's one point. And the second point is, can I swear on stage? I fucking hate ads. I fucking hate them. You go on YouTube. Yeah. You go on YouTube to watch a video and you see an ad or 2 ads before, and then in the middle of the video it gets interesting. Fuck, there is an ad. And even in podcasts, right? I try to skip all the ads, and there are some not only bad ads, but I think some podcasters were very unlucky where they had to shill companies which were not in the best of the Bitcoin spirit, right? And I think we need to emphasize, and that's what we at Node Signal are trying to do, we do not rely on ads. We don't want ads, because we want our users to have the full experience. Like, you want to listen to a Bitcoin show, and here's only a Bitcoin show, and no disturbing ads there.
Yeah. And I think this touches on something deeper than just content creators making money, which I think is really, really important for the internet and for the world. All of the algorithms on the major social media sites are driven by an attention signal. So the content that gets the most attention is the content that gets surfaced and generates the most advertising revenue. And that's why on platforms like X, you see your feed that is full of outrage, division, shocking videos. And that's because it's human nature, that grabs our attention and makes us, stop scrolling, which is what they want. Value for value does something different, where instead of driven by clicks or views or listen time, we can actually surface the best content based on a value signal. And this can actually create a much better internet where instead of the things that bubble up in your feed being shocking or outrageous or divisive, they are truly valuable. And I like to use the example of a like on YouTube. If I was to like a video on YouTube and you were to like a video on YouTube, Max, that sends the same signal to the algorithm. But it may have been that video really changed my life, changed my perspective on something. Whereas for you, you already knew all the content. You kind of just liked it a little bit. And so that difference in value is never captured and it's never sent through to the recommendation algorithms. And so I think, what value for value enables, and again, it's still a long way off, but it enables capturing that dynamic value signal that can really surface content that really is meaningful to people and kind of spread that more widely. So I think that is also, it's also about discovery. It's not just about the sats. It's about how do you, put your value signal into the platform to help that content spread to more people.
I want to make a related point to that, which is if we measure value for value purely on transactional or monetary terms, I think we're missing the bigger picture here, which is especially from a creator standpoint, right? Because there have been occasions I published the early drafts of my book, the chapters on Nostr, and I got zaps. We get them for our podcast, Blockchain Radio. And yes, the monetary value is, can't live off of that. It's not going to keep the lights on. But every now and then you see these incredible acts of generosity. Someone randomly zaps 1 million sats, and it just, as a content creator, that keeps you going. And that's those type of gestures, you don't see those in the fiat world or, in a subscription-based model where it's a purely transactional relationship between the consumer and the creator. So I think there is something to be said about that.
Yeah, totally. And also for me as a content creator, it's kind of what you touched upon, Oscar, is making content within the traditional media space is kind of influenced or even governed by the algorithm and how it acts. Like me as a content creator, I need to play by the rules the algorithm gives me, because if I don't play by those rules, my content won't be surfaced for the people which I want to, it's just not gonna work, right? And for me, when I switched to making it only on Zaps, I mean, yes, I'm still on YouTube, and I still need to work according to the algorithm, otherwise it won't work there. But what I realized is that those zaps are the ultimate form of feedback on my content, because a like or a share, okay, let's put it like this. A like is less, or just a view is 0, right? Okay, you watch it, I don't know if you liked it or not. A like is a little bit, okay, this content was probably a little bit valuable for you, this goes into the right direction. If you share it, I have the perception, okay, you want to share this to your friends because there was so much value for you that you want other people to participate with it. But that's it. That's basically a stop. Maybe you can comment on it and that you can say, okay, it changed my life. But once you're on a zapping mode, by connecting this feedback loop to money, it changes the game completely, because I know when my content is shit and I get 21 sats, I know it's shit and I need to change something with the content, right? Whereas when I make a video and it gets, like, let's say 500,000 sats, I know, okay, this is the direction I should put into. And I think we didn't have this value change yet. And I think, as you say, this will also help the content creators to get better in their content rather than just do content for the algorithm and work on that. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I'd love to jump on that, because I think we're at the beginning. We're creating how do I call them? Well, the different tools within value for value. So we mentioned Zaps already quite a few times, but then we have new value for value tools emerging. Like, for example, at Geyser, we're able to purchase and sell rewards. And rewards are actually a potentially infinite assortment of sharing between creators and contributors. I was actually pulling out the chart today about what type of things people are purchasing, and sometimes people are just purchasing shout outs. Instead of just sending us 10 sats, a creator can decide, look, for $10 I'll give you a shout out. That can mean a lot for a contributor that wants to feel something about connected to the community of the creator. Or things like even sponsorship. You can purchase a sponsorship and therefore feel even more recognized. You can be a part of the leaderboard, and again, be recognized. You could buy an Oscar badge, right? And be a member of the community that you're following. Down the road, subscriptions and recurring subscriptions on Oscar are coming, right? So all these we're really early. There's going to be more tools, and there already are many tools to create this ongoing feedback loop between creators and their community. And I'm really, really bullish. I'm really, really bullish of what's coming, guys. It's going to happen. It's going to happen big time. Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. It's kind of weird at the stage right now with value for value that even the tools are just being built. But the content creators also need to figure out how to use those tools, because asking for money on YouTube or on the content is really, really fucking hard, right? Because there is this line between, okay, I created this value and I need to tell you that I'm doing this on a value for value basis, but I also don't want to be appearing like a beggar, like, oh, you sent me some money. But ultimately, me as a value for value content creator, this is how I'm able to continue, right? So I need to find this really, really thin line of asking. So maybe what are your experiences? I'm trying right now with gamification a little bit. So I just did a video series, 7 days surviving only on Bitcoin. And on one episode, I tried to sell shoutouts, for example, and it worked really good, right? So for this one, I got like $50 in total or something. So there is a way to utilize the tools you guys are currently building. So what do you think how the future of maybe asking could look like? What are your experiences, bad or good experiences?
Well, I think this is really hard, and you said it already. There's a very small sweet spot of the call to action, right? And I would like to tell my own experience. When I listen to a podcast and I really like it, and when the host tells me, hey, if you like what you just heard or saw, please support me, this call to action, it really works for me because I enjoyed the podcast. So I go into my Fountain app and say, okay, I want to boost this episode 5,000 sats or 10,000 sats. So I think it's very important to remind the users from time to time that there's this way of supporting us, or to express that you liked what the content that was provided. But it's hard, right? You don't want to interrupt the show to do the call to action, and we're still not sure how to do it, so we're experimenting a lot. Sometimes we say, okay, we are an ad-free podcast, so this can only work if you support us. We try to tell them about what we do with the sats. So we tell them, so some sats go to our post-production guys, some goes to the other host or to our guests. So that's how we share it. We would also like to experiment with things like, okay, if you can answer this question, you can join the show next time, or you can listen in a live recording, something like that, something to reward the listeners. But it's still early for us. We're experimenting. We're trying out a lot, or we're going to try out a lot. But that's how it currently works.
Yeah, I think I would say two things on this. The first is, this is a skill to be learned, just like any other skill that you need as a content creator, whether that's video editing or, post-production on a podcast. It is a skill and it takes time to learn. And also you need to find the resources to learn from. You can't just put your content up, ask once and expect the sats to flow in. It's not going to work like that. I do think we need more resources for not the tools that are available, but the techniques that are available and the language around those techniques, how to ask, like the different kind of formats you can try. I would say on the podcast side, what I would recommend people do, or content creators, podcasters do, is go to the Fountain charts and, look at the podcasts that are consistently in the top and go and listen to their value for value segments. The most successful podcasters have a dedicated segment in the show where they, read the top boosts, they thank people for supporting, and they also remind people that, not only is it important to contribute, but also, they love seeing the messages. It's not just about the money, it's about the messages of encouragement as well. There's also podcasts specifically, there's a show it's literally called Value for Value by Kyron. And that show goes through the whole philosophy. There's 4 seasons, like 10 episodes in each season. And he really goes through and gives you clips of how other people are doing it. So I would encourage any content creators to spend a lot of time learning from others that are having success. And then also, I think we as the creators of the tools need to provide more educational material and examples of actually how to construct that ask, because the ask is really critical.
I want to talk about one experiment we tried, and I'd love to see this type of experiment evolve. So I have trouble asking, and I've never asked, right? I just post stuff out there. If someone's apps, I thank them, and that's it. But we had a few months back, Sam Means from Wave Lake and Lightning Store as a guest on our show, Blockchain Radio. He shows up and he announces that he's dropped a limited edition Blockchain Radio t-shirts. So we boosted or promoted that show on Fountain. That got more views, so more people heard that there were these Blockchain Radio t-shirts. They started buying those t-shirts. We got a cut of that money. We reboosted the episode with the money we got from the t-shirt sales, and then that cycle kept going. So, it's not a perfect business model, obviously, but we sort of dubbed that the pleb wheel, sort of a flywheel for value. But I'd love to see other experiments like that where you're not begging effectively for money, but trying to use some kind of innovative ways to promote.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it just further reinforces. I guess I believe we have at Geyser that it's all about connection, right? I mean, that's why we come here to these conferences. We're human, we're social, we like to chat, we like to interact. That's what makes us human, right? Is social interaction. And just the tools on the internet so far have not really ever allowed us to have a proper connection. And I think with Nostr being so social, with money, with the ability to purchase and sell goods like t-shirts on these tools, we can finally have a way to brush shoulders with each other and shake hands and pat each other on the back. And that's really exciting to see that. And just to point out another point on that you raised, Oscar, in terms of the techniques, think about the YouTuber at the end of the video who says subscribe down the channel below, right? I mean, we need this type of techniques to be really embedded in the Bitcoin, whether it's in a podcast or it's in content you're creating. Support us down below, right? Zap us down below. It's something that has to become more and more part of the routine of creating content.
Another really simple technique is the analogy. So, one easy one is a cup of coffee. I've talked about this a lot with podcasters specifically, but, most people, they listen to a podcast, maybe they're going for a walk on a Saturday morning or, they're, commuting to work. And maybe they buy a cup of coffee at the same time as listening to that episode. And using an analogy in terms of how much value those two things provide is a great way to frame it for new listeners. So you could say something like, hey guys, what was the equivalent value or joy you got from that cup of coffee, which maybe costs you, $3-4, or this podcast episode that you listened to for an hour? Was it worth $3? Just ask that question on the episode, and that kind of gets your audience thinking about the equivalent things that they spend money on and how much value it brings them.
Yeah. So, to summarize, I would say it's extremely promising, this whole space. The proof of concept is there. Value for value is proven. We need to check if it works full time, if it's like, if creators really can work on this. I just want you to know that any sats you send to creators are making really a difference. Even if it's just 21 sats, whatever it is, we see those saps, right? And as a content creator, this keeps us going. So it doesn't matter how much it is, but every sap matters for this to work. And I think if you want the internet to become freer, the content creators to be able to spread their message without being cancelled, without being influenced by any algorithm, please try zapping if you haven't. And if you did, we as content creators are enormously thankful. And yeah, I'm bullish on this. Let's make it work.
Let the sats flow.
Let's go, guys. Get your Nostr client out now. Load up Max's profile and let's send him some zaps right now and try and
Let's do it.
Thank him for his work. Do that right now. He'll appreciate it.
Let's make value for value work. Let's go. Thank you, guys.